From one user trading his way to homelessness to another user making $30 million, we're gonna rank this year's 10 craziest trades. Raspberry Ketchup is a user who made his first ever options trade without even knowing what the heck options were. Back on June 6th, when GameStop was going bonkers, Raspberry Ketchup was feeling extreme FOMO. He decided that he should get in on some low-risk fun by buying calls that expired the next day. You might be thinking low risk and 1 DTE options don't really go together, but Raspberry Ketchup did, mainly because he didn't know what options were. He thought that options contracts were only for 1 share, when in reality they're for 100, of course. Since he didn't know this, he went ahead and bought 100 calls at the $34 strike price. He thought that this trade would only cost him $181, not $18,000. Raspberry Ketchup entered the position and somehow didn't realize that he just dropped $18K. Regardless, he went about his day as usual. After coming back from a peaceful picnic and a productive day at work, he whipped out his phone and was dumbfounded by what he saw. His $18,000 position was now worth $127,000. This really does seem like it was his first and only trade, because 6 months later, he has never returned to the subreddit. Accidentally 7xing your money is insane, but this is actually the most tame trade of the video. I ordered this list so that the trades only get crazier and crazier, so get ready. Wall Street Chicken is a user who accidentally got himself fired for getting a bit too comfortable in the workplace. Wall Street Chicken has been posting due diligence to the subreddit for a few months, but after getting fired, he thought that the best course of action was to start YOLOing his mother's retirement fund. This was a pretty dangerous move considering Wall Street Chicken is an avid WallStreetBets consumer. Nonetheless, Wall Street Chicken started selling options and buying Tesla, SMCI, and Nvidia. Wall Street Chicken's investments immediately started paying off, but things weren't going so well at work though. Let's just say that Wall Street Chicken really put the chicken in Wall Street. He commented, "In my defense, I had no idea my employer had security cameras." Wall Street Chicken was in a virtual meeting and just so happened to spill his tea. This is when he started to get a little bit too wild though and took everything off covering his lower half. Once again, probably a bit too much for work, but he didn't think much of it since there was no way anyone could see what he was hiding off camera. Little did he know, his job had security cameras. His family jewels were exposed and security guards caught him on cam. Wall Street Chicken left on good terms, but now he had to move into a spare room at his mom's since he no longer had a stable income. Despite his workplace blunder, Wall Street Chicken's mom's portfolio has been looking better than ever. Up about 180% in 3 months, he felt great to be able to help out his mom. His father passed away not too long before this, so this money would definitely help give her an easier retirement. Except, he started to make ridiculous trades. A week later, he went from being up 50% on his Tesla trade to down 140% by selling puts. He lost 17K in a day. He didn't post any more screenshots of his portfolio until November 26th. He was once again down 13K in a day with Tesla. No worries though, he says he'll just make her some tea and watch Downtown Abbey again. 2 days later, he lost another 7K. He then revealed that this was actually only 10% of her Roth and that she actually wasn't being put into too much danger. She actually holds 3,500 shares of Tesla, which is worth over $1.5 million. Jesus Nados is someone who became an overnight millionaire on an options trade while in college. Jesus wasn't always rich though. He was able to go to college for free since he qualified for financial aid. He also had 18K in his Fidelity portfolio that he was ready to let grow. Overall, things were looking pretty good for Jesus, but his life would take an unexpected turn. He ended up failing all of his classes, which led to him dropping out. After realizing his future was on a bit of a decline, he decided to put all of his efforts into learning how to code. After 2 years of this academic grind, he finally landed a coding job. He worked until he saved up $70,000. He took this hard-earned $70K and dumped it all into Bitcoin. Bitcoin's rise in 2024 brought his portfolio to $100K. Jesus had successfully achieved a 6-figure net worth at 18, but he wasn't ready to give up just yet. He took his whole portfolio and YOLO'd it on Shiba Inu. Shiba Inu's rally early on in March sent him all the way up to $250K. Jesus realized he had gotten insanely lucky and decided that it was time to stop being so risky. That's until 3 months later, he saw the bull break out of its cage, and GameStop's rally had Jesus feeling like he was gonna miss out. He fired up Robinhood and YOLO'd his life savings on AMC calls. Jesus was instantly on edge. AMC was trading at about $3.50, so he needed AMC to jump about $1 for his calls to be in the money. Jesus was worried. AMC kept rising, but he felt like it was due for a crash any minute. He knew that there was nothing he can do about it since the market was already closed, so he got into bed and got ready for some much needed rest. Except he was not able to sleep. He was up until 1 a.m. when he finally, peacefully hit the hay. Until he bolted up from his bed at 4 in the morning. Jesus was only able to catch 3 hours of peaceful Z's before AMC woke him back up. He knew that all he can do now was wait, and that's what he did until the trading bell rang at market open. Jesus opened up Robinhood and was greeted by his now $1.2 million portfolio. Despite having over $1 million to invest, Jesus makes the responsible decision to keep working his job and go to college. After making a post to the Fire subreddit, he revealed his plans on meeting with tax and financial advisors. He still lives with his parents and doesn't have any debt. He would like to invest his fortune to make even more money. He says that he doesn't want to retire yet and wants to keep working for now. 7 months later, he hasn't made a single new post to Reddit, so it seems like he really did vanquish any urge to YOLO the money. Speaking of Vanquish, Vanquish Trader, the sponsor of today's video, offers a sim-to-fund prop firm platform where you can start with up to $300,000 in simulated funding for stocks and options. Vanquish Trader gives you instant access to trading data and unlimited payout requests, all while offering a 100% profit split. They even let you short stocks if you're feeling like a bear. There are no hidden fees, and they offer the flexibility to trade across devices anywhere, anytime. You can choose which account you'd like to subscribe to, each with a 6% profit target and a 3% loss limit. They let you trade with anywhere from 10 to 300K. Pass the one-step evaluation in just 10 trades with unlimited time and no activation fee, by the way, and you're in. Vanquish Trader is giving 10% off to all accounts purchased with my link in the description, and they're also throwing in an additional free reset. They allow users to trade up to 5 options accounts and 5 stocks accounts of any balance variety you'd like to use. Once again, if you're interested, be sure to click the link down below in the description to get started. Mixmaster Meat 1 is someone who ended up taking his trading journey a bit too far. Mixmaster Meat has supposedly always wanted to be a day trader. He was able to win his 7th grade computer class stock competition by completely YOLOing his whole paper account into Sony stock. This strategy would carry on into his later years. Mixmaster Meat was now 30 years old and he was done paper trading. He was trading real money. In the summer of 2023, he says that he had the bright idea to ask his girlfriend for $25,000. He said he wanted to put this money into a trading account so he can enable margin, but that he would never actually use this money to make any trades. He also threw in $5K of his own money to actually fund the trades he was going to do. Things started off pretty good for Mixmaster Meat. By day trading SPY and Tesla options, he was able to go from 5 to 25K. This boosted his confidence and made him feel like a quote-unquote master trader. Like every other master trader, he began losing thousands of dollars per day. He got to the point where he lost 35K, with 10K of that being from his girlfriend. Mixmaster Meat was a bit shaken up, but he wasn't completely discouraged. With only 15K left, he decided to YOLO his whole portfolio on Tesla calls. Luckily for him, Elon Musk came through and took the value of his portfolio back to 30K. His girlfriend never even knew that he had briefly lost her money, but that didn't matter to him. He was back in the game. Being back in the game, he started to lose thousands of dollars again. Just before his portfolio came completely crashing down, he YOLO'd his portfolio into Target. This YOLO took his account to 6 figures in the matter of a day. Feeling overjoyed, he threw 30K into out-of-the-money 0-day till expiration SPY options. He also took out enough money to pay back the amount that his girlfriend initially lended him. This turned out to be a pretty smart idea because he would end up completely blowing the account. With $0 in his account, he made the decision that any master trader would make. He took out a high-interest personal loan to start trading in a whole new account. He borrowed 25K and YOLO'd it on 0-day till expiration options. The master trader ended up destroying his account a second time. Only this time, It wasn't even his own money, or his girlfriend's. He now has to pay back $1,356 per month to just get out of his debt. 9 months later, he hasn't posted any new screenshots of his portfolio, but he has posted about some issues with his tenant. Good to know he still has a home. Back on June 3rd, SDF-IT made his grand debut to WallStreetBets to let us know about his master plan. Bath & Body Works was set to report earnings the very next day, and SDF practically had insider info. SDF had been on paternity leave for 5 months. He used this as the perfect opportunity to do some makeshift market research with his newborn options trading baby, of course. Every single day, he took his newborn baby to 3 different malls to scope out the Bath & Body Works stores for a couple hours. SDF would keep track of how many bags he saw people walking out with, and even walked inside to count how many items people had in their carts at times. After doing this for 124 days, he gathered some solid data. He found that Bath & Body Works had a much livelier store than the other ones in the mall, and was doing similarly to Sephora. SDF concluded his thorough research and bought $20,000 worth of shares and $8,000 worth of calls that all expired by next week. With all of this research, there was no way things could backfire. But of course things backfired and the stock fell by more than 12% the following day. The company had beat expectations, but overall guidance was a bit rocky. 8 months later, and no update, so it seems like he's done with his big time trades. Sad Nefarious 10, or Intel Guy, is a user who stumbled upon a fortune as a junior in college. Unfortunately for the young scholar, his grandma passed away about 3 months before this. Of course, rest in peace to his grandma, but there was one small light in this sad situation, and that was that he inherited $800,000. Intel Guy was a bright person. He's a math major in college, and luckily doesn't have any debt since his parents are paying his tuition for him. He heard all about the goofy stories about people living lavishly and blowing their inheritance, and knew that that would not be him. That's why he decided to throw $100,000 into a high-yield savings account and $700K into an individual stock of his choice, which was, of course, Intel. Intel Guy had a solid amount of due diligence, but there's no way to sugarcoat it. We all know that his portfolio is completely done for. After day 1, he was already down $33,000. The company's earnings report came out, and he was down another $173K. Intel Guy got back to us and let us know that he still planned on holding for a decade. These were the scariest days of his life, and his parents didn't even know that he had already lost a third of his inheritance. He was stressing out, but ended off his post with, "Some of you guys have been really mean, but it's okay. I know I deserve it, but I'm holding. Forever. Intel will succeed." Since then, Intel's been looking a bit rocky, but hopefully Intel picks back up for him. Flash forward to today in December, and his Reddit account is now deleted, so take that as you will. User iLost1million is someone who has done just that. iLost1million learned about the stock market back in 2019. Things were all gravy until iLost1million learned about options in 2020. After scrolling through WallStreetBets, he became interested in the Bed Bath & Beyond stock. We all know now that that company is no longer with us, but iLost1million still had more money to trade with. He may not have made money with Bed Bath & Beyond, but he was now hooked on options trading. Flash forward 2 years, iLost1million was running out of money to trade with, so he sold his house and car. You might be thinking that that's bad enough, but he also maxed out credit cards, borrowed from the bank and lenders, and lied to friends and family to loan money from them as well. Cherry on top, he also says he worked odd jobs that were shameful. His wife of 12 years had left him and took custody of the kids. iLost1million lost 1.03 mil, but worse than that, he lost his friends and loved ones. He cried for days on end and had to sleep on benches, under bridges, and in backyards. After all of this commotion, you would think that he's ready to give up options trading for good. But actually, no. He's doing the exact opposite. He is absolutely determined that he will be able to make all his money back. He didn't lose everything due to his understanding of the markets. No, it was his ego, greed, and lack of discipline. He spent the past 2 years dedicating himself to mastering every technical aspect of the market. Without wasting any time, he took the $25K he saved up and quickly made $13.4K trading SPY and $2.7K trading futures. After a few more days of trading, he took his Robinhood portfolio up to $55K. He posted some more of his positions, but hasn't updated us since October 10th, so not sure if he ever made that million back. Elon I Love You is a user who wanted to live and die by the YOLO. Before getting active on WallStreetBets, Elon I Love You posted on the Borrow and PrizePicks subreddits, which is, of course, a pretty dangerous combination. Towards the start of November, he boldly threw $990 into Tesla calls, which was all that he had in his portfolio. Luckily, Tesla was steamrolling its way to the moon at the start of November, and Elon I Love You's portfolio bounced all the way up to 50K. Most sensible people would take their 50x gain and have a good Thanksgiving dinner. But Elon I Love You did not want to take this route. Only one day after 50xing his money, he threw $30,000 into out-of-the-money Coinbase calls. This was a trade so risky that even the WallStreetBets mods were clowning on him. In a strange turn of events, Elon I Love You would get the last laugh and prove everyone wrong. On Monday, November 11th, Coinbase jumped 19.7%. His calls were now worth $386K, and that's still after he took $20,000 out of his portfolio as a safety cushion. Elon I Love You wasn't content with going from $1K to $400,000. After taking $100K out of his Robinhood portfolio as another safety cushion, he was ready for his next big YOLO. Only a day after his crazy Coinbase gain, he threw $155K into way out of the money MicroStrategy calls that expired in 3 days. He stayed silent, and it seemed like nothing really ever happened with this play. That was until he made his grand return on November 19th. He spent $145K on even more MicroStrategy calls, and he was already up 85.5% for the day. He made $450,000 profit in one single day, which is just unbelievable considering he started with only $1K. With $500,000, he was still not ready to walk away. He threw the whole enchilada back into even more calls on the company. The next day, he opened up his Robinhood portfolio and was absolutely delighted to see $1 million in his account. The stock price started dropping right after that, so he scrambled to sell as quickly as he could. After it was all said and done, he had $826K in his account. After achieving this juicy 1000x, Elon I Love You reflects on how he was borrowing money from strangers on the internet just 7 months ago. But he still wasn't ready to give up though. On November 21st, he went back to his roots and threw $723K into out-of-the-money Tesla calls. Tesla wasn't really moving the way he wanted it to, and woke up the next day down $111K. He was not ready to cut his losses though. He left a message letting us know that he was going full degen mode. Apparently, 1000x was still not degenning to the max, and he clearly wanted more. A higher power must have heard this rant, because just about an hour later, his account hit 1.2 mil. He waited a bit to sell, but still walked away with $1.03 million. After locking in $1 million, surely he was done. But obviously by now, we know that this isn't the case. He threw over $950K into out-of-the-money MicroStrategy calls that expired only a week later. Elon I Love You woke up to a diabolical portfolio on Monday. MicroStrategy was down, and his portfolio was now only sitting at $553K, which is half of what it was before the weekend. He then bought $375K worth of out-of-the-money SPY calls that expired in 2 days. He was now down another $50K, but refused to give up on his dream. On Tuesday, November 26th, he woke up to a portfolio that was worth $238K, pretty much a fourth of what he had last week. He needed to 4x his money to make it all back, but he was ready to do that. He threw most of what he had left into out-of-the-money Amazon calls that expired in 3 days. Amazon rose over 3% that day, and he actually made nearly $114K, which was a 40% daily gain for his portfolio. Now at $352K, Elon I Love You said, "If this blows up, I will take the $60K I have left and call it a year. But until then, I will remain transparent about my wins." On Thanksgiving Eve, his portfolio quickly dropped to $150K. He sold his Amazon calls, loaded up on Tesla puts, and recouped $100K. Still down $46K for the day, he says he's going to eat some turkey and chill until next week. This would not be the case though, as he came back only 4 hours later with yet another update. He just bought $220K worth of MicroStrategy calls. If the stock didn't jump 31% in the following week and a half, he would be losing money on this play. A week later, he came back with grim news. He only had 23K left in his portfolio, and he was down 213K over the past week. He says he has 150K left in his checking, but users on the subreddit questioned if this was really true. Either way, he was set on throwing 20K in his portfolio on one last final hurrah. His final play was Palantir Weeklies at the $80 strike price. Later that night though, he knew something was wrong. Palantir was not the right play. If he was gonna go out, he was gonna go out with the stock of his dreams. That being said, on December 4th, he threw 17K into 2-day till expiration calls on MicroStrategy. The stock was $105 short of his strike price, and if he held, his calls would have of course expired worthless. Long Was Here is someone who was able to quit his job to trade options and play pickleball all day long. Long was originally a software engineer working in the financial tech industry. On June 17th of 2023, he was able to roll over his Palantir gains into TQQQ. He then rolled these gains into Adobe and walked away with an $80,000 profit when it was all said and done. About 2 weeks after this, he dropped 53K on a stock that he would become very fond of over the next few months. Not only did he get calls on TSM, but he also coughed up an additional 57K on Microsoft debit spreads. Flash forward a few months, and Long Was Here would return from his hiatus. Monday morning came along, and he was locked and loaded. With 2,100 triple leverage NASDAQ calls and 1,000 Robinhood calls, he had about 300K on the line. These calls all expired at the end of the week, but of course, being the Dragon of Wall Street, he would not have to wait a week. Both of these stocks had a decent day, and Long locked in an $80,000 gain. He got out of his position, but he was ready for the next trade. Now that I proved that I'm not a back to the original programming of Hood shares. At this point, I'm just doing it for the lulz. On the same day of getting out of his calls, he dumped 1.2 mil into Robinhood shares. He was getting ready for CPI, and after being pretty unimpressed, he decided to sell covered calls on his shares. Only 3 days later, he threw 1.6 mil into Palantir because the CEO's head looks like his grandpa's. Haven't lost in so long, I'm forgetting how it feels. Will this end my streak? Sold my last hood position for 30K before the drop. The dragon escapes again. Unfortunately, this trade would end his streak, but not by much. After making several more 5-figure trades, he came back a few weeks later. Went from up 30K to losing it all because I decided to play Monster Hunter for 10 minutes instead of selling it yesterday at market open. Long took a $50,000 loss because he was too dialed in on the Monster Hunter grind. All of this was nothing compared to the trade he was getting ready to make. Long YOLO'd 50K on Amazon calls that expired in only a few days. The calls were slightly in the money, but the Dragon of Wall Street even made the claim that he would buy a pizza party for Amazon employees if the stock hit 160 before the end of the week. Amazon was a bit up and down, but by the end of the day on Thursday, the stock was trading at $158. He sold 400 of his calls for a $40,000 profit and had an unrealized profit of $122K. This was great, but Amazon had to jump another $2 in a day for him to bless everyone up with a pizza party. Lo and behold, Amazon hit the magic number on Friday. Long closed the rest of his calls out for $750K and made a total profit of $490,000. The Dragon of Wall Street said ordering couple grand worth of pizza to Amazon Lab 126 on Wednesday in Sunnyvale. If you know someone that works there, let them know. Long was doing better than ever, but all this extra attention would end up getting him the banhammer. No advertising / self-promo. Please review the rules. And soon after that, the Dragon of Wall Street would be banned from the subreddit. He was banned for having his Patreon in his bio, but many users would say that this ban was unfair. Even though he got banned from WallStreetBets, he still posts on his own subreddit, Wall Street Dragons. On April 23rd, Long was getting ready for his 30th birthday. Coincidentally enough, his birthday fell on the day that Meta was reporting their earnings. Long decided to throw just over $1 million into calls on Meta. April 24th came along, and things were going alright during the trading day. The stock dropped 0.5%, but this didn't worry Long, cause Meta was reporting their earnings after hours. Another user on the subreddit said, "I just followed with 30K of my own. In Dragon we trust." Finally, Meta reported their earnings. The company did decent in the first quarter, but had weak revenue guidance, which caused the stock to fall 16%. Long's $1 million position was now only worth 10.4K. Since then, though, he's posted hundreds of other crazy trades that would just take too long for me to include in the video. If you want to see more, you know where to find him. Long was a man who, 9 years ago, was broke and hungry looking for free food, but made it to the promised land. Fosterion18 is someone who we've covered extensively on the channel, but it seems like his Reddit profile is pretty dormant nowadays. For those of you that don't know, Fosterion is someone who has made tens of millions of dollars trading options, and he took us along for the journey as well. 8 years ago, he made his first post to Reddit, looking for the best extended warranty company. He was also looking for a second car with a budget of 5 to 10K. Little did he know, his budget was about to increase exponentially. A few years later, he made his first ever post to WallStreetBets. He threw 23K into SPX calls and locked in a 10x gain. This $220,000 gain was nothing in the grand scheme of things. And honestly, he just has so many wins on his account that it would take me forever to go through them all. Back in February of 2024, his new account was sitting at $20 million, with an $18.2 million gain year to date. This doesn't even include the other millions of dollars worth of gains he had before this. He made 5 more posts showing off 7-figure trades, but since July, he hasn't posted anything new. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment to let me know if you think I missed anyone.